Well, dear human relatives, welcome to our 252nd online gathering for faith leaders across the country, with a focus this year on creating beloved community. This regular gathering is sponsored by ELCA's coaching ministry. I am Jason O'Neill. I use any and all pronouns, and I'm honored to be one of your facilitators today.
And I'm Reverend Solveig Nilsson-Gooden. I use she, her pronouns, and I am also honored to be one of your facilitators today for the 11th month in a row in attunement with the Truth and Healing movement of the ELCA and moving toward right relationship with our Indigenous siblings and neighbors. Let's begin with a land acknowledgement. We are gathered together from all parts of Turtle Island, also referred to as North America. We are connected by the breath given us by the breath maker and by the very piece of Mother Earth, the land that each of us inhabits today. We understand that all land is Indigenous land, and we invite each of you to name in the chat the Indigenous peoples or tribal nations whose lands you occupy now. We acknowledge the terror of colonialism, genocide, ethnic cleansing, broken treaties, stolen land, forced removal, and boarding schools, as well as the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women and children each year, and the ripple effects of violence still being experienced today. We acknowledge that Indigenous peoples are not historical subjects, but are part of our communities. They offer invaluable wisdom for how we exist in relationship with Mother Earth, as well as our human and non-human neighbors.
It is also important for us to offer a labor acknowledgement. With permission granted by Dr. Tara T.J. Stewart, we acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of transatlantic trafficking, slavery, and Jim Crow laws. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today.
So another part of creating beloved community is fostering a sense of belonging. So if you need to update your Zoom name to include your pronouns, I invite you to do that. It's just another way that we can express welcome for all of God's children. And of course, that if at any point in those gatherings you may access captions, the captions option in the Zoom menu on your device. It might show up as the icon with the letter CC in a box, and you may need to click on the three little dots or swipe to a different screen within Zoom to access this option.
So let us continue our work toward healing and justice by entering into a place of peace and listening together. Through these regular gatherings, we have developed a covenant of how we enter and interact in this space. We're committed to creating a safer and braver space where each of us are able to bring the truth of who we are and how we are doing. If you share something today that you wish if you wish for us to edit out of the recording, just let us know afterwards. And with all of this said, we affirm these conversations are meant to be an intentional step to live more fully into God's dream for us as the body of Christ, the beloved community. As Bell Hooks wrote in All About Love, rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion.
Today and every Wednesday of 2025, which is one more Wednesday after today, every second Wednesday. Sorry about that. Yes. We're journeying with Indigenous author Vine Deloria Jr. and engaging with Custer Died for Your Sins, an Indian manifesto. And just a reminder again about our journey together. We're all learning from this Indigenous elder through his writing. So we're not teaching, we're just facilitators of this space each month.
As such, it feels important to begin our reading circle each month with this context from the last paragraph of the preface. But the Indian task of keeping an informed public available to assist the tribes in their efforts to survive is never ending. And so the central message of this book, that Indians are alive, have certain dreams of their own, and are being overrun by the ignorance and the mistaken, misdirected efforts of those who would help them can never be repeated too often.
And so, as you know, we have been engaging this this brief but really important covenant. Just reminders of how we are interacting together and how we're creating beloved community. And first is that we're sharing from our head and from our heart, hopefully together at the same time. That's the invitation here, and to practice awareness of space and time. For the group that we have, we've got 10 participants today. Yay, that's wonderful. So, so just remind you to step up if you have something on your heart that you want to share, and step back if you want to create space for other people to step into so that we can hear everybody's voices. And just reminding us all that we're always learning, and that is the point. So there's no right or wrong here. There's just, we're all learning. We're all in it together. So welcome everybody who may have popped on during their introduction. And so just want to give us now our 5 to 7 minutes until about 11:15, where we can look through our own books and then type quotes into the chat, and citing the page numbers as well so that we can easily find them. And so we'll just take this time to do that. And then that will be the basis of our conversation today. All right, wow, there's a lot coming in. This is wonderful. I wonder if we're ready. It's about 11:15 to start reading. So I'd like to invite, the first quote that I see is Jane at 11:09, and I wonder if you can read your quote out loud, Jane, and then we'll just go down from there.
Actually, Sylvia, I think it might be Sunny's.
Oh, really? Wait, where?
Right after the land acknowledgements. Right above Jane's.
I don't see that one. Okay, go ahead. It's not on mine for whatever reason. So go ahead, Sunny. Sorry about that.
I don't see it. I don't know what I
When-
put. So
when-
let's start.
I can read your Sunny because I'm looking at it. So this is Jane reading for Sunny.
Oh, that's community for you.
Yes, when one examines the history of American society, one notices the great weakness inherent in it. The country was founded in violence. It worships violence and it will continue to live violently. Anyone who tries to meet violence with love is crushed, but violence used to meet violence also ends with meaningless destruction, page 255. And mine comes after that and is just a few sentences from that same quote. So it goes to Jill now.
Actually, if I may jump in there, I'd love to continue actually where Sunny started. I just made a note that I think that the whole next couple of paragraphs as well. Consider the history of America closely. Oh, this is from page 255 still. Never has America lost a war. When engaged in warfare, the U.S. has always applied the principle of overkill and mercilessly stamped its opposition into dust. Skipping ahead a little bit. Consider also the fascination of America's military leaders with the body count. This is the top of 256. It's not enough to kill people. Bodies must be counted and statistics compiled to show how the harvest is going. And then a couple sentences later, but name if you can the last peace the United States won. Victory, yes, but this country has never made a successful peace because peace requires exchanging ideas, concepts, thoughts, and recognizing the fact that two distinct systems of life can exist together without conflict. Consider how quickly America seems to be facing its allies of one war as new enemies. And then I think that's Jill's part, starts right from there. The US operates, is that right?
For me, the one that I listed first was on 246, but it really builds on that, Jason. And the paragraph that I have highlighted is, but pan-Indianism exists primarily in the mind of the beholder, as do all anthropological theories. Pan-Indianism implies that a man forgets his tribal background and fervently merges with other Indians to form Indianism. And then I just love the one word rubbish. And for me, this really speaks to our work in diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and forces us to think about how open are we to quote unquote others not being monoliths, right? It's so much easier if we say all white people, blah, 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 all indigenous people, blah, blah, blah. And it just, yeah, rubbish. I love it.
Tammy, you're muted.
I think mine is next. Ever since Indians began to be shunted to reservations, it has been assumed by both Indians and whites that the eventual destiny of the Indian peoples was to silently merge into the mainstream of American society and disappear.
Stephanie, do you want to be able to say that she typed faster than you?
Right. I was literally typing that and she hit enter right before I did. So
Well, I made some typos, so that's there.
that's why you type so fast, huh?
Well, and I put the same one in too, so but way towards the bottom.
So I had, it is virtually important that the Indian people pick intellectual arena as the one in which to wage war. Past events have shown that Indian people have always been fooled about the intentions of white men. Always we have discussed irrelevant issues while he has taken the land. Never have we taken the time to examine the premise upon which he operates so that we could manipulate him as he has manipulated us. It was on page 257, I think. I'm in the Kindle version, but I think that's right.
Oops.
I think your quote is next, Alice, at least on my chat. And you're me.
Sorry. So from page 252, it is almost, no, that's later, isn't it? From page 246, others feel that American society has now reached the point of maturity where the platitudes of the Constitution can finally begin to take on real meaning.
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Well, I
mean-
wanted to say, would God that it were true.
I mean, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm next, and we already did that one. So keep going.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though how many people choose the same ones because there are some quotes that are just like, right?
Yes.
So, Indianness has been defined by whites for many years. Always they have been outside observers looking into Indian society from a self-made pedestal of preconceived ideas coupled with an innate superior attitude toward those different from themselves. Oh my gosh. And again, to your point, Jill, earlier, it's like fill in the blank. Black people, Latinos, just whoever, right? Outside observers looking in, self-made pedestal of preconceived ideas, coupled with innate superior attitude toward those different.
From page 255, Blacks have not been denied because of their so-called extremism, but because they failed to consolidate the power that does exist in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Indians in these cities have found that tribal differences do not merge into a general blur of Indianism. Tribal backgrounds are too strong for even an Indian melting pot, so the people have to build their organization on tribal differences. Page 249.
From page 252, it is almost impossible to keep an accurate census of Indians in a city.
And from 260, churches must also shed their ineptness at facing modern problems. The rise of native religions in the past 2 decades has clearly put the churches on notice that their days as supreme religious authorities are numbered.
The next one, 245, just the end part, it sort of gave me hope to idea, that they've moved from all of what we've described so far to the idea that tribes would always manage to survive.
Yeah, and from page 266, there is in fact little need for more funds. The great need is for reorientation of existing expenditures to support projects of non-federal people. With much of the money now being spent in the Indian field going mainly to keep a dribble of young Indians on relocation, there is incredible monetary waste. there is no urgency in the program which can be felt by the Indian people themselves. And again, for me, this just reeks of the posture of white superiority and knowing where those funds should be best spent.
From page 255, the country was founded on violence. It worships violence, and it will continue to live violently. Anyone who tries to meet violence with love is crushed. But violence used to meet violence also ends abruptly with meaningless destruction.
Just what we're seeing now.
I thought the next one could have been written in any number of books. So, creation of new forms of ministry would place churches in the vanguard of social change within the field of Indian affairs. Previously, churches have used the paid ministry as the representative of organized church. Now they must acknowledge and support the informal channels of social activity by which the new Indians are reorienting their people. The informal yet recognized ministry would bring new blood into the churches and enable them to understand social fusion into the tribal form of the future.
And from page 261, I strongly doubt that American Christianity has the foresight or flexibility to embark on new paths of action. It has always been torn between being good and being real, and generally chosen to be good.
And on page 260, churches must also shed their ineptness at facing modern problems. The rise of native religions in the past 2 decades has clearly put the churches on notice that their days as supreme religious authorities are numbered.
I didn't realize it was me again. Sorry. I was just sitting there thinking about the event last night that we heard. Vance Black Fox was chatting with some of the students from the Teal program, where they were naming and owning what it's like to have access to education through this Indigenous lens, and it was just wonderful. So page 265, I think that is exactly what Solveig read earlier. And so ditto what she said. Alice, I think it's
And
you.
mine is a ditto also. The whole passage Tammy quoted on page 255 about country founded in violence.
And then mine's going to be repeated in 2 more spots, but tribal existence becoming the most important value in life. And I know Jason said that one too.
I just couldn't help cracking up at this just one sentence that just
Oh gosh.
oh my, the United States operates on incredibly stupid premises. Oh, Jason, you said read the whole paragraph?
Yeah, I think it's a great paragraph. I think it's on page 256 in the middle.
Oh, did I write the wrong page? I did. Okay, yeah. Sure, yep. It always fails to understand the nature of the world and does not develop policies that can hold the allegiance, and so does not develop policies that can hold the allegiance of people. It then alienates everyone who does not automatically love it. It worries about its reputation and prestige, but daily becomes more vulnerable to ideologies more realistic than its own. This country could be easily influenced by any group with a more comprehensive philosophy of man if that group worked in a nonviolent, non-controversial manner.
That stupid premises that's kind of what I was thinking this morning as I was listening to the news about the shutdown. What a stupid premises that you have to come to an agreement and whoever's more stubborn wins and people are out of jobs because of it. So stupid.
I think so. I had from page 263. Tribalism is the strongest force at work in the world today, and Indian people are the most tribal of all groups in America. They are also in the most advantageous position of any tribal people in the world. Using modern technical knowledge and having tremendous natural resources, Indian people can combine urban and rural life in a nationalistic continuum. An understanding of the forces and ideas brought forward by Indian people to solve particular problems during the next decade should prove to be useful information for solving similar problems elsewhere in the world.
Is it Jill or is it me?
It's you.
Okay. From page 256. This country has never made a successful peace because peace requires enhancing ideas, concepts, thoughts, and recognizing the fact that the two distinct systems of life, live, cannot, I don't know what it says. Let me see if I can read it from the.
Systems of life. Yeah.
Okay, of life can exist together without conflict. Another typo.
And I had to agree that another ditto for Solvay this time. The United States operates on incredibly stupid premises. It always fails to understand the nature of the world.
And as if all of them don't resonate to the very present moment. This one certainly does. The white man asks only the opportunity to chase the almighty dollar. Whoever can take the burden of thinking from him is worshipped and praised beyond belief.
I think the author of this book had like a crystal ball and was looking into the future. 100 million%.
That's why, as I've read these end pieces, it's like that was a hopeful idea, but it had, what you said would happen hasn't happened instead, you know. And that's I have continual question marks. Did this happen? Did this, you know? Yeah. So I guess I'm next. It comes from 254. Indians are often told by bureaucrats that Indians don't act like that. This idea is entirely false and only serves to illuminate stereotypes and make the militants more active.
And are y'all trying to be reading paragraphs? Because I feel like there's so much in this chapter.
I know.
So I have from page 264. It is at this point that the traditional Indian customs will come to predominate among the operations of Indian people nationally. Tribalism looks at life as an undifferentiated whole. Distinctions are not made between social and psychological, educational and historical, political and legal. The tribe is an all-purpose entity which is expected to serve all areas of life. The new corporations will not simply be development corporations, rather they will be expected to cover all areas of life from small business to scholarships. Where ordinary white corporations serve to produce income from capital invested, corporations will not do so in the new Indian scheme. Rather, they will serve to coordinate community life. Earnings will be used to provide services ordinarily received from various governmental agencies. As economic independence becomes greater, independence in other areas of life will follow. Indians can thereby achieve a prosperity not seen since the landing of the white man.
And I believe mine has been quoted earlier.
Mind reading it again? That's another good one.
I strongly doubt the American Christianity has the foresight or flexibility to embark on new paths of action. It has always been torn between being good and being real, and generally chosen to be good.
From page 260. Creation of new forms of ministry would place churches in the vanguard of social change within the field of Indian affairs.
And just the reminder, which again, we've all said in so many ways, made policies and direct programs on behalf of Indians without bothering to consult the Indian people.
And finally, almost at the very last sentence, page 267, too much attention from the press can radically change conceptions and goals simply by making the process appear commonplace. Another prescient thought, manipulation by the press and of the press.
Solveig, I think you had one right above that.
I don't see it.
Yeah, this is one that was earlier, and I don't know why it's the United States operates on incredibly stupid premises.
Oh, I see one that says Indianness has been defined by whites for many years from page 265.
Oh, I think I wrote that like way at the beginning.
Oh, interesting. It just popped at the bottom. Okay.
Yep.
Never mind.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there's a lot. What is stirring in folks?
I wish he had written another book later on.
And I wish he'd been right about his conclusions in this chapter too.
I'm wondering his statement about the US has never lost a war. And I don't know how that assessment would play out in 2025, looking back at Vietnam, Afghanistan, and a whole series of things. I think it's a very different landscape. And I don't have the capacity to analyze what that has done. But given his perspective about the role of violence and hegemony, I think he would have interesting thoughts on that.
I really wanted to do my research to see where we were at on some of these things. When he was talking about, this is just beginning, in the cities they're doing this, they're beginning to have this conversation. And I didn't have time to do some research to look ahead and say, has some of that progressed or was it squelched or so as we look at that, there was hopefulness in some of the not necessarily many of the quotes we pulled up, but there is hopefulness in there. But it was like I just have this feeling that perhaps progress has not happened.
Well, I think some progress has happened because some of what he said was just beginning has spread to additional cities, like Portland, for instance.
I thought about that too. There's a local Native organization that really functions in the way that he talked about corporations functioning. It's a nonprofit. And I think nonprofits are kind of what he's actually has in mind when he talks about corporations. However they're structured, the clear values are that the money goes back into the community, right? But there's one organization, and I thought about this in a number of places in the chapter here in Portland, and they developed a partnership. So this is urban Native organization, partnerships with some of the tribes to build affordable housing in Portland. But because they're partnering with a tribal entity, the tribal entity can access federal housing block grants. And so, but there's enough of those members, enrolled members of those tribes in the Portland area. So essentially, they're building affordable housing, which you can't say it's only for certain kinds of people, except they created this mechanism whereby they can build this affordable housing and a certain percentage can be dedicated to a tribal preference because of this partnership. And I thought about that with this chapter. I was like, oh wait, this is like connecting the reservations and the urban native population and making this possible. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, it is happening, right? In some ways, and I'm sure it's happening in all kinds of interesting places, these sort of connections and partnerships that are like an of course for Indigenous people, but it's like, what? Why would you do that? As you know, for white people, right? So that was inspiring actually to remember that that's actually happening.
I think that plays into the one quote that I pulled out about how does the indigenous how do indigenous people learn to manipulate the system in the ways it's been manipulated. But I look at that of how do we learn how it works in a positive so that we don't deal with the negative. So the negative manipulation of somebody else deciding for you, how do we, just as you were saying, we can get money because of this. So how do we take advantage of that opportunity and use it for good? So it is manipulation, which we tend to think of as always bad, but it's not always bad. Sometimes it's just learning how to play the game.
I remember being on one of these conversations some time back when the heaviness of everything that was being shared just brought the group to kind of silent despair. And we just sat with that heaviness. And I'm reflecting as I come to the end of the book, that heaviness has lifted without removing the challenges, but somehow something for me is shifting. And I can't really say that, but I also sense that just as I listen to this conversation here.
Yeah, Jane, I admire you for so many reasons. And you've put words to what my heart has been experiencing. And I just appreciate that deeply. And I was thinking again last night as we are journeying with Vance through this symposium. Jason, what is the name of the symposium? My head is blank again.
The Vine Gloria Junior Theological Symposium.
Oh yeah, the author of this book. This is so revelatory of where my head is at, people. And I will just say that last night, one of the things that really brought me hope was listening to the leaders that are completing a cohort in the Teal program. And I just want to read this little description of Teal to you because for me, it really points to the hope that I feel like we've been hearing through this about what it could be. Deloria's vision for what it could be. So TEAL stands for Theological Education for Indigenous Leaders and is an educational program for Indigenous leaders within the ELCA. Developed in partnership with Indigenous Wisdom Keepers, the program aims to empower Indigenous leaders to be more effective in their communities and congregations through a curriculum that incorporates their cultural traditions and wisdom. It offers through a partnership. It is offered through a partnership between Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary and the ELCA. And just watching these leaders speak with such confidence and the emphasis on story and reclaiming language, even though it was a super long day, yeah, I just left feeling like sky high. Just, it filled my heart with hope. Anyway, thank you, Jane, for naming the shift.
Excuse me. You said a group is going through the symposium?
If it helps, Alice, I put a link in the chat
Yeah.
there's still one more tonight.
Oh, I see.
It's open to the public.
But didn't the symposium happen a while ago? Or is this a new thing?
Oh, sorry, the symposium is happening now. Are you referring to the group of students?
No.
Oh.
I'm getting something. I'm getting two things mixed. Same Vine Deloria, two different symposiums, I think.
Oh, yes, there are multiple symposiums around the US in his name.
Because there was the one based in Chicago.
Right, at LSTC about a year ago.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's annual actually. So this is the next annual one of that one.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I hear what you're saying about, excuse me, the shift. But given where we are right now as a country and what's happened, and I don't know how the rest of you would describe it, but it feels like we've taken 500 steps backwards in so many areas where we had taken a few steps forward. That, like I said, there were moments where, okay, you know, that quote about we can make it, you know, I put in for hope. But like I said earlier, I just have question marks all over this chapter again of, did this happen? Is this happening now? I can't believe that it is unless it's in hiding. I mean, just because of what's going on right now and the violence that continues to happen to people who are, quote, different, you know, those kind of things. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And I think steps have been made forward, certainly from this book in this area. But given the overall picture, you know, are we back and have to now keep redoing some of these things again? And that's a rhetorical question. I mean, in many ways, I'm just, you know, I always say, you know, I stood on the protest lines in Detroit with my dad when I was in high school, and here we are again, you know, what the heck, that kind of thing. And yet that's life, and that's the world, and all of that. And maybe that's the reminder. And the reminder then, how do we find those moments of hope so we keep moving? You know, and perhaps just the book and what you said, Jane, too, and Jill, perhaps that, okay, so this is a moment of hope in the midst of what we are all experiencing. How do we grab onto it so that it can embolden, empower us to find our way? And maybe I'm, you know, because I moved from, I lived in New York, I lived in Detroit, I lived in Chicago, and now I'm living in Arizona. And you've heard about different things in there going on in Arizona. And yet, when the No Kings protest happened in the valley where I live, they had this whole stream of people come out. So who knows? With that, I'll shut up.
In one of the places I hear hope from the Indian community, and I hear it not so much in Deloria's book because he's writing from an earlier time, but I think about the voices I'm listening to now, and there is a sense that the Indian has not gone away, is not going away. Their connection to their people, their story, their neighbors, their way of life, is it threatened? Yes. Are all of those bad things happening, Sherilyn? Absolutely. And yet there's a kind of resistance and resilience that I think, as a white person, I have a whole lot to learn from people who have faced this for a long time, because that's not my story. I'm used to being on top and having progress and things getting better. And so the place I'm looking for kind of my skill set and my philosophy now is going to people who have lived in a circumstance that's very different. And I find the Indian voices I read, Indigenous voices, Black voices, to be the places of hope.
And even as I say that, I happen to find a church in here in where I live that actually is very great in trying to speak out and even connect with a lot of the Native American not only programs but other things, you know, happening, and support them in any way they can. So even as I share that, I mean, there's this reality too. But since you named the sort of lament, you know, yeah.
There is hope in the fact that we're all here.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't have been here years ago, and each of us are shifting in our thinking. So that's where I think the hope needs to be, whether it's one person at a time. So often we've done things where it's at a surface level. When we got people together working more deeply, that's going to be a lasting effect.
And that's also our white approach is, you know, fixing it all and making, you know, it happen faster than what we're comfortable with. So that's the other piece that we combat within ourselves. I combat within myself regularly.
And so many of us have lost our own tribes or been disconnected with it by claiming whiteness.
I was really curious about the quote. I strongly doubt that the American Christianity has the foresight or flexibility to embark on a new path of action. It's always been torn between being good and real, and generally chosen to be good. And I was stuck. I didn't know. It sounded this awful to say. I don't know what good is that we've chosen. I mean, that felt like a contradiction of terms. So I just wondered, can somebody help me see what that was saying?
I feel like good is like Minnesota nice. Minnesota nice isn't nice, and church good isn't good. It's good.
That's how I was reading. Stephanie was in quotes, like he was being sarcastic. At least that was my take on it.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well,
good is also following the rules instead of being willing to step out beyond them, to me.
and I hear it in the church that is all about Jesus saving me. I'm going to get to heaven, so I don't have to think about the beloved community or the call to justice for the people. It's like I've accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, so I'm in. And so that's all I care about. And I hear that as part of that good package.
Mhm.
Thank you. That helps. That's where I was at with it, but I thought maybe I was missing the point.
Yeah, and I would
I
also
was
just add,
thinking
go ahead,
sort
Amber.
of along those lines, with the idea of white people wanting to fix things, and part of fixing things many times in the white way is not paying attention to all the details and to everybody. It's a superficial fixing everything. So that's choosing the good from a white point of view.
So we come out the heroes.
Yeah, that term whitewash, Alice, just fits beautifully there. We walk in and throw a coat of paint on it. No one will ever know it was there.
And how many times have I heard people who support pretty abhorrent policies say, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. Yeah, but let's talk about what that means. What do you think that means? Right? I really appreciate how everybody really engaged today. I heard everybody's voice in the room multiple times. So grateful for that. And we're at 5 minutes to noon my time, Alice's time too. So we're going to draw this to a close. And next, just as a reminder, next month, there's no more chapters. We read the book, but come back so that we can reflect together on the whole experience. And we can maybe pull some of the threads that wove through the last year together. And we can just celebrate this tremendous gift that we've given each other.
I would also love to, like, if y'all want to be reflecting and meditating and praying on what might be next, if y'all want to continue, we're thinking like what might be next year. Is another Indigenous author, or we'd love to open this up versus like me and Solveig, or me and Solveig and Jill deciding. We took this book because of his Vance's recommendation, and now we're kind of wide open. So yeah, we'd love to hear if there's maybe a consensus or a theme or thread that is from the reading circle. So thank you, as Solveig said, for actively creating beloved community with us in this space. We feel like this is how we do it, with you. It's not us creating it for you. So really appreciate your presence and engagement here. I'm going to list a host of things today. There are so many more things we've added to the website, so I encourage you to check out elcacoaching.org/events. But Solveig, I think, may put some things in the chat. I'll go through them kind of quickly. Just want to highlight several things I think might be of interest to this reading circle specifically. So this month is the final offering of Decolonization and Organizing for Systems Change, which is hosted by the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery. Module 1 is actually this evening. Module 2 is next Saturday, November 22nd. Last month was part 1 of Flourishing in Life and Ministry, which is a 2-part program for faith leaders that ELCA Coaching is piloting with Ridgeview Coaching. And part 2 will be tomorrow, Thursday, November 13th. Also tomorrow is the next of 3 more sessions this month of Conrad's education continuation of their Building Relations with Land and Sky. They have a cohort that is doing a journaling practice, a land connection journaling practice for fostering decolonial connection to your local biosphere. Then on Monday, November 17th, we're hosting a webinar on, the ELCA is hosting a webinar on creating accessible spaces on a budget, because all this is connected, right? And next Wednesday, November 19th, please join us back in this Creating Beloved community space for Nobody Journeys Alone. But wait, there's more. Also next Wednesday, Code Pink is hosting author Charles Eisenstein for something called The Stories We Tell Ourselves, a conversation on community and culture. And next Thursday, November 20th, the United Church of Christ is hosting a Trans Day of Remembrance Vigil. And the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery is actually hosting their next Decolonizing Worship Gathering on Friday, November 28th. Is that enough? Yeah. So as you leave today,
it's not enough, because there's also a celebration of a land back by the First Catholic Order of Nuns. That there's a celebration, I think, on the 17th. Which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, a little order of Franciscan nuns. Yeah.
Wow. If anybody has a link to that, if you'll send that, I can put that on the website. Like if it's something that's public.
I have an email I can send.
Thank you.
Okay, can I ask one more thing? I don't think we've done prayer requests, but I have a prayer request, a very specific one, for this Saturday morning, Pacific time, sometime between 9 and 10:30 our time. The Oregon Synod Council is going to be doing what would be very well be their final discernment on which Native organization or tribe to return a church property to. So there was a church that closed, and they've taken this entire year to go through a discernment process, and this Saturday is the day. So please pray that it's like deeply spirit led, and that, I mean, it's not as important. It's all important, where it goes, and also that the council feel deeply that this was Spirit's leading, that they're connected to it, so that it's a positive, beautiful experience for them in that discernment. So anyway, thank you for prayers.
Friends, I add a prayer to this, that each of us in this space really thinks about how this journey through this book will inform how we gather with relatives over the holiday, especially the one that's coming this month, that I have a hard time even calling Thanksgiving, which is just like weird. But this journey has changed me that much. Like, we have to call that something else and separate our giving thanks to God for all things from that particular event. And so I encourage us not to be super like, walk in, throw your gloves down, have a big confrontation. Like, it doesn't have to be that, but truly, as Sylvie is saying, invite Spirit in to say, what are some small ways that we could maybe offer an alternate perspective and continue to plant seeds, the seeds that have been planted in our hearts from this work, that I just really thank Sylvie and Jason for curating this space for us. So thank you, friends, beloveds.
I want to throw off the gloves too.
Do you? Let me know how it
And I
goes,
just
Sylvia.
thought.
Even text me at the table, like, okay, like sneak pictures and send them to me. I'll be laughing with you.
Well, I usually get into with my nephew, but he's a libertarian, so it's a different type of thing, different type of conflict.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
If you haven't seen, it's an old movie called Home for the Holidays. Oh,
I just have to go because I'm
Yep.
on another thing.
All right. Never mind.
Sylvie.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Go ahead, Charlene, if you want.
Well, no, it's just, it's not about this specific, but it's about conflict in family. And my sisters and I watch it before Thanksgiving every year, so that we're prepared if we're going in to meet something. It's Downey Jr., what's his name? And it's funny, but it does help with the spirit.
Speaks the truth. Yep.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Well, I'm going to create conflict by bringing my dog.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And they haven't met my new dog, who is a watch dog. So it will be interesting.
Wonderful.
To see you all.
Everybody.
Thank you again, friends.
Giving
Sending
thanks for
blessings.
you.
Bye.